Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage His Excellency José Manuel Barroso, former President, European Commission, and Concordia Leadership Council member.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's great to be with you all at the opening of this 13th Concordia Annual Summit as we reconvene to shape and address the most pressing issues across the global agenda. In doing so, it gives me great pleasure, in my role and capacity as a member of Concordia's Leadership Council, to personally welcome President Erdogan of the Republic of Turkey to the stage alongside Concordia's very own co-founder and CEO, Matt Swift.
Take a photograph real quick, one minute. Perfect. President.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know President Erdogan for more than 20 years. Over these past 2 decades, I've had the opportunity to work with President Erdogan on a whole array of critical issues, particularly in close collaboration during 20 years, but also specifically on 10 years as President of the European Commission. I've come to know President Erdogan as a highly influential leader, a tough negotiator. Most recently, this was exemplified by his role in brokering the Black Sea Grain Initiative, and also when he supported Finland's accession to NATO, and hopefully now also Sweden's accession to NATO. His leadership has been instrumental in advancing common goals and interests we share with Turkey across the world. Turkey's key geopolitical and geostrategic role is demonstrated in many ways in the current global political situation, as a very close neighbor to the European Union, as a very important country in the southern eastern flank of the North Atlantic Alliance, as a central Eurasian region at the interface of major geopolitical areas, and also against the backdrop of changing political constellations in Eurasia, the Middle East, and North Africa, as well as an energy hub between Europe, Middle East, and Central Asia. Marking the 100th anniversary of the Republic of Turkey, in this upcoming fireside conversation facilitated by Matt, we will get his unique perspective on the current geopolitical paradigm shifts and a look into the future trajectory of Turkey. With that being said, I will now hand over to Matt and also to President Erdogan. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President, I want to thank you for honoring us with your presence and joining us for the 13th Concordia Annual Summit. So thank you very much for coming. I'd like to start to talk about your worldview. The COVID-19 pandemic undoubtedly tribalized the world, disrupting the status quo as we knew it. In our present day, characterized by great power competition and multipolarity, talk to us about how you are interpreting the significant geopolitical changes that we're seeing around the world.
First and foremost, the pandemic unfortunately caused significant changes all around the world. And as Turkey, we were going through this pandemic period just like everybody else, but we managed to surmount those challenges quite successfully. during the pandemic, our health sector seemed to be very much prepared. Compared to the rest of the world, we seem to act differently. We were really prepared, and that's why we've managed to eliminate challenges quite significantly with our field hospitals and all the other refurbished new hospitals. I can confidently say that in all around 81 provinces of the entire Turkish territory, we didn't have a single province without a hospital. Then we started building up the field hospitals. They became quite widespread, and they were clear demonstrations as to how much significance we attach to the health of the humans. And I would like to underline one specific thing. Some countries adopted quite introverted policies in the field of health, but that wasn't the case for Turkey. We didn't close in. Some of the challenges introduced by the pandemic led to xenophobia and racism. There were many disruptions in the supply chains all around the world, and the inflation rate skyrocketed, incomparable to the last 5 decades. 161 countries and 12 international organizations received medical aid from Turkey. And as the executive presidency system that we had moved on to a couple of years ago, we've managed to steer the pandemic quite efficiently. We made expedited decisions, and we started executing those decisions without any delay. The geopolitical and economic weight of Turkey became much more apparent in the aftermath of the COVID, and we are determined to turn it into a new opportunity for us.
So as we continue to evaluate this changing geopolitical landscape, how do you see the evolving role of the United States in the global agenda, and how does that affect U.S.-Turkey relations?
Tabii her şeyden önce Amerika Birleşik
First of all,
Devletleri gibi bir ülke
a country such as the United States, with its economy, with its capacity, and with its capabilities all around, should have a different position on a global scale. From security to trade, we have been enjoying multi-dimensional relations with the United States. Our bilateral trade exceeded $32 billion annually. And the total investments of the American companies in Turkey reached $14.5 billion. Right now, we have 2,080 companies, 80 companies with American capital. And the investments of the American companies in Turkey should increase. That's our aspiration. That's what we expect. During my visit to Sochi last week, I was speaking to President Putin about the possibility of exporting 1 million tons of additional grain to mainly African brothers and sisters first. You are aware of the fact that when we launched the Black Sea Grain Corridor, a total of 33 million tons of grain were exported to global markets coming from Russia. And about 44% of this went to the European countries, 14% came to Turkey, and just as much as that amount went to the African countries, but that's not adequate because we need more grain for the African countries, especially those which are the least developed ones. The grain in Turkey is being converted into flour, and that flour should be then exported to Africa. This is our obligation as human beings. When we got together with President Putin last Monday in Sochi, these were some of the things that we were discussing. And without any delay, in an expedited fashion, we said that we needed to relaunch the grain corridor once again, and I requested him to not suffice by 1 million tons, but send more. We have been leading quite extensive telephone diplomacy during this process, and
yerine getirelim dediler.
They
Ve
said
böylece
that they were
vedalaştık.
going to do whatever was necessary as Russia, and then we said our goodbyes.
You recently attended the G20 World Leaders Gathering in New Delhi, and I was very keen to hear, Mr. President, Turkey's position regarding the following areas of concern, and one you've just recently referenced in the Black Sea Grain Initiative, but also the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. As one of the architects behind the Russian-Ukraine grain deal, which you just talked about, are you confident that it can be reinstated?
Her şeyden önce Basra Körfezi'nden
The Gulf of Basra
ve Körfez ülkelerini de
and
aşarak Türkiye'ye
trespassing the other
tabii
Gulf
Irak'tan
nations as
geçmek
well,
suretiyle
of course going
Türkiye
through Iraq
üzerinden
as
de
well, and
Avrupa'ya
Turkey,
gidecek olan bir
leading
koridor.
all the way to Europe.
Ve bu
That's the kind of a
koridorun
corridor we're talking
raylı
about.
sistem,
This corridor
otobanlar,
will consist
bunlarla
of
beraber
railways,
altyapısı,
highways,
üst
infrastructure, and
özellikle
superstructures,
burada
of all
Körfez
sorts.
ülkelerinin bu işe
and
çok kararlı olduğunu
I think
gördüm.
Gulf nations appear to be
Yani
very
Birleşik
resolute
Arap Emirlikleri
in making
olsun,
this a possibility.
Katar
That's
olsun,
what I've
Suudi
perceived.
Arabistan
Qatar,
olsun, Irak,
UAE,
hepsi bu konuda
Iraq,
çok
and Saudi
kararlı.
Arabia, they seem to be
Ve
very
hepsinden
resolved.
özel, biz de kararlıyız.
And everybody's
Amerika'da bu kararlılığı gördük.
resolved.
Almanya'da,
The
Japonya'da,
United States,
bunlarda da bu
Japan,
kararlılığı
Germany,
gördük.
they are very determined as
Dolayısıyla
well, just as much as
atacağımız
we
böyle
are.
bir adımla
And
yeni
if we
bir
can take
dünyayı
this step forward,
inşa
I
etme
believe we
fırsatını
will have the
bulacağız.
opportunity to construct a new world.
Shifting gears a little bit, I'd like to ask you about NATO, Mr. President. As both a NATO member state and a key strategic partner of the European Union, how are you navigating the national interests versus broader geopolitical tensions?
NATO ile ilgili olarak
With
tabii
regards to
söyleyeceğim şey
NATO,
NATO'nun
what I need to
en
say
eski
is that
üye
we are
ülkelerinden bir
one
tanesiyiz.
of the oldest members
Yeni
of
değiliz.
NATO. We're not a newcomer.
NATO'nun içinde de
And
ilk
inside
5
NATO,
ülke
we are
arasında yer
ranking
alıyoruz.
amongst the top 5 countries
Verdiğimiz askeri
with regards
güçle,
to the military
gerek
power that we
verdiğimiz
have
mali destekle
and the financial
NATO içerisinde
contributions
böyle bir
that we
konumumuz
make.
var.
So this is our
Ve
position
bundan
within
şu ana kadar
NATO.
herhangi bir taviz
And we had
vermedik.
never ever compromised on our position
NATO
within NATO.
içindeki bu gücümüz
Our power
NATO üyesi
inside
ülkeler
NATO
arasında da takdir görüyor.
is being praised by
an
all the other
itibariyle
NATO
de
members as well.
Biz
And as we
NATO'nun
speak,
içinde aldığımız görevleri harfiyen yerine getiren
we are proud to
bir
have
ülkeyiz,
served all of
Türkiye
our
olarak.
responsibilities that
Ve
we
bundan
assumed
sonraki
as a
süreçte de
NATO power,
aynı
as a NATO
şekilde
member.
bu görevi ifa
And that's
etmeye
exactly what we are going to
devam
do. We will
edeceğiz.
keep on executing our obligations in the
NATO
future for
üyesi
NATO.
ülkeler olarak
Because as the
hepimizin
NATO
burada
member
ortak
states, we
menfaatleri var.
have certain
Buradan
common
taviz
interests,
vermeye niyetimiz yok.
and we have no intention whatsoever of compromising from that.
Shifting, if we can, to migration, and I think this is a remarkable, when I was preparing for this interview, Mr. President, an incredible statistic, but that more refugees than in any other country in the world per capita, that Turkey houses more refugees than any other single country in the world. Are you satisfied with what international bodies and the international framework on refugees today is doing to address this global crisis?
Mültecilerle ilgili olarak
About the
Dünyanın
refugees,
yaklaşım tarzı bazı ülkelerde
the approach
olumlu.
of some of the countries
Örneğin,
appear to be positive.
Amerika
For example, the
mültecilere
United States,
bakışta bana göre
in my
olumlu
point of view,
ülkelerden bir tanesi.
is one of the countries with a positive stance
öyle,
vis-a-vis the
Fransa
refugees, such as
öyle.
Germany and France.
Türkiye olarak
And as Turkey,
aynı şekilde bizim de mültecilere
we
bakışımız
have a positive stance
farklı.
vis-a-vis the
ama
refugees.
ülkemizde ana muhalefet
we have a different approach
partisinin
towards them, but
mültecilere
the
bakışı
main
ne
opposition
yazık ki
political
çok
party in
acımasız.
Turkey
Hatta
has a
seçim
very merciless or a
kampanyasında
cruel
yani
approach
biz
towards the
seçimi
refugees.
kazandığımız
During the recent
takdirde
election campaigns, they had
mültecileri
pledged that on the condition that they were
sınır dışı
triumphant, they were going to
edeceğiz
deport
demek
all of the
suretiyle
refugees back to their
böyle bir tehdit
countries of origin.
savundu.
That's how they
Bizi tam
threatened
aksi.
them.
Biz
Whereas
mültecilere olan
we
ev
acted
sahipliğimizi
quite differently.
bugüne kadar nasıl yaptıysak
We have been
bundan sonra da yapmaya aynen devam
hosts of the refugees
Bizde şu
until so
anda
far, and that's
5
exactly
milyona
what
yakın
we were
mülteci
going
var.
to continue to do. We
biz
have
bu 5
almost
milyona
5
yakın
million
mülteciye
refugees that we're housing in
bütün
Turkey as we
gayretimizle
speak.
ev
And
sahipliğimizi
we have been trying
yapıyoruz.
to
Yapmaya
act
da
as good
devam
hosts
edeceğiz. Hatta
with every
şu anda
capability that we
Suriye'nin
have
kuzeyinde
for the refugees. On the
bizler
northern part
birket evler
of
yapıyoruz.
Syria,
Bunun
we are
dışında
currently building
yeni
brick
konutlar
homes,
yapıyoruz.
and we
Ve
are
bu
building
konutlarla
different
birlikte de
residential units.
600 bine yakın
So,
Suriyeli
until
şu
so
anda
far, almost
buralara
600,000
yeniden
Syrians
gönüllü
were
olarak dönmeye
resettled
başladı.
on a voluntary
Katar'la
basis
müşterek
in the
yeni bir
northern
adım
part of
atıyoruz.
Syria. And we are
Ve
cooperating
burada
with Qatar.
yapacağımız
A
konutlarla
new
da
process is going to be
tabii
launched.
bunlar
The residential
çok
units
kalite
will be of
konutlar
the highest
ve
quality,
buradan Suriyeli kardeşlerimizin
and
tekrar
Syrian
kendi
brothers and
topraklarına
sisters will be able to
dönmelerini
enjoy going back
sağlayacağız.
to their motherlands.
Shifting gears, one of the most popular themes of this annual summit, sir, has been on the environment. How do you balance the very public environmental commitments that you've made without harming commercial activity and potential business growth in Turkey?
Şunu bütün samimiyetimle ortaya koymam gerekiyor.
With
Her
all
şeyden
my
önce
sincerity, I
Türkiye'nin
need to state the following.
sera gazı emisyonları
The total
oldukça
greenhouse
düşük.
emissions
Yine de
of
Türkiye
Turkey
Paris İklim
is
Anlaşması
quite
hedeflerine
limited,
en
and
fazla
we
katkı
are
sağlayan
fully committed
ülke
to the Paris
konumunda.
climate change
Ve bu
agreement,
alanda
and we are one
attığımız
of the
adımlarla da
countries with the highest
dünyada örnek
contributions to
gösterilebilecek ülke
the
konumundayız.
goals of the Paris Agreement, and we
Çünkü
can be
burada
labeled as
aldığımız
exemplary.
desteklere
We are a
baktığımız zaman
beacon in
biz
that regard.
diğer birçok
And
ülkeler gibi
compared to
herhangi bir destek
other
almadan
countries
bu
around the
adımları
world,
attık.
we have received
atıyoruz.
not much contributions
Ve
in
Paris
in
iklim
order to take
şartına da
these
bugüne
initiatives
kadar
forward.
uyduk,
And we
uymaya
have always
devam
been very
ediyoruz.
respectful. We have been
Türkiye olarak
compliant
dünyamızın
with the Paris
ve
climate
insanlığın
change
ortak
agreement,
geleceğini
and we will continue
ilgilendiren
doing
bu
that.
hayati
This
meselede
is a vital
elimizi
challenge
taşın altına
of close concern to
koyuyoruz.
all of the citizens of the world, and
Paris
we are
İklim
rising up to the
Anlaşması'na
occasion, and we are
2053
assuming
net
our
sıfır
obligations.
emisyon ve
In the
yeşil kalkınma
year
hedeflerimizde en
2053, we are
anlamlı
going to
katkıyı
enjoy
yapan
net zero
ülkeler
emissions, and
arasındayız.
with the green development,
Hem
we are
yenilenebilir
committed
enerji
to our
hem de nükleer
previous
ve
pledges.
hidrojen
In terms of
yatırımlarında
renewables
önemli
and in
adımlar
terms of nuclear
atıyoruz.
energy capabilities, we are taking
Yenilenebilir
significant
kurulu
steps
güç bakımından
forward. In terms
Avrupa'da
of the already
beşinciyiz.
installed renewable
Dünyada
energy capacity, we are ranking number
Böyle
5
bir
in Europe
gayretin,
and 12th
çalışmanın
in
içindeyiz.
the world. These are
Enerji
some of the
verimliliği
endeavors
ve
that we are
yenilenebilir
heavily invested
enerji
in.
alanında
In terms
attığımız
of energy
adımlar
sufficiency
yıllık
and renewable energy
90
resources,
milyon ton
thanks to
karbon
the steps that we
eşdeğeri
have
sera
taken,
gazı
we've
emisyonunu
managed to eliminate
engellemiştir.
19 million tons of
2053 yılı net
greenhouse
sıfır
gas
emisyon
emissions
hedefimiz
per annum.
doğrultusunda
And with regards to our net
2030
zero
senesine kadarki
emissions
emisyon
target for
azaltma
the year
hedefimizi
2053,
iki
we have
katına
revised our
çıkarttık
outstanding
ve bu da tabii
pledges
dünyada
to be realized
örnek
until the year
sayılabilecek
2030.
adımlardan bir tanesi.
So this is one of the exemplary steps on a global scale in terms of eliminating greenhouse emissions.
The world watched in February as the country suffered some terrible quakes in the southeastern region of Turkey. What are some lessons learned in your response to those earthquakes that could now apply to the recent devastations in Libya and Morocco?
6 Şubat tabii deprem felaketi
The February
gerçekten
6th disasters,
Yani
the earthquake
ardından
disasters,
Fas, ardından
only to be
Libya,
followed by the disasters
buralarda
in
meydana gelen
Morocco and in
felaketler
Libya,
ama sel felaketleri, ama deprem
Floods,
felaketleri,
earthquakes
ancak bunun acısını
of
biz
similar
biliriz.
scales,
Çünkü
we
biz bunu
know how
yaşadık.
people will suffer
Ve
because we've been
bizim
through that.
50.000 kaybımız oldu.
We have 50,000 casualties.
Konutlara gelince
And when it comes to the
11
residential units,
vilayetimizde
11
çok
provinces
ciddi
were
kaybı uğradı.
badly destroyed.
Tabii şimdi büyük bir
We've had
hedefimiz
significant
var.
losses, and we
Bu
have a very
hedefle de
ambitious goal now,
Biz süratle,
whereby
yani 1 ila 2 yıl
in
içerisinde
1 or 2 years,
konutları
in a very
inşa
expedited
edelim
fashion, we will
ve
complete the
burada
construction of the
konutları
new
yıkılan
residential units
vatandaşlarımızla bir
for
an
the
önce
families who have lost their
evlerine
homes.
yerleşsin istiyoruz.
We want them to be
Tabii
settled
burada
down
normal
in their own
konutlar var.
homes
Bunun yanında
as soon as
köy
possible.
evleri var.
We have
Bunun
regular
yanında
residential units, we
dükkanlar,
have country
bunlar
homes,
var.
we have
Bütün bunlarla
stores,
beraber Çevre,
several
Şehircilik
outlets
ve
that we
İklim
have planned.
Bakanımız
Our Ministry of
ekibiyle beraber
Environment and
yoğun
Urbanization
olarak bu
is heavily
çalışmaları
invested in these
sürdürüyor.
endeavors.
ve ardından tabii şu
As of the year
anda
2023,
Fas'ta, Libya'da meydana gelen felaketler de
the disasters in Libya
acısını biliyoruz.
and in Morocco,
bundan dolayı
we know
da
how painful
süratle biz
that is.
Libya'ya da
And that's
Fas'a
why
da yardım
we
için
have extended a helping hand to both Morocco
ekiplerimizle
and Libya
biz hazırız
with our
dedik.
disaster relief
Henüz Fas'tan
teams.
bir geri dönüş
We told these
almadık.
countries that we were ready to
Ancak Libya'dan
provide
geri dönüş
aid.
aldık.
Morocco
ve
didn't
Libya'ya ilk
respond
etapta
until so far, but Libya
3
did.
dev uçak
And within the
gönderdik.
first phase, we had
Ve 3
dispatched
tane de
3
ayrıca
aircrafts to
gemi
Libya,
ile
and an additional 3
araç,
vessels
gereç,
were sent.
gıda,
Some
mühimmat
medical
vesaire
equipment, other
bunları
equipment,
gönderdik.
and food
Ve
were sent there.
yine herhangi bir talep olursa
And if
her türlü yardımı göndermeye
request, an
hazırız.
additional request comes from
dedik.
them, we
Şu an
would
itibariyle
be ready to
ekiplerimiz
send them more.
Libya'da
Our teams
oradaki
are currently
çalışmalarını sürdürüyorlar.
involved in relief
Bunu
efforts
insani
in
bir görev
Libya.
olarak telakki ediyoruz.
This is
ve göndermeye
something that
de
we
devam
perceive
edeceğiz.
as a part of our humanitarian obligations.
Shifting gears around global inflation, its impact on the economy in Turkey. How are you balancing the need to fight inflation while also protecting especially those living near the poverty line?
Şu anda tabii bu küresel enflasyon tüm dünyanın
Global inflation
tehdit
is
ettiği bir durum.
a very threatening
Ve
challenge
bunun
for
karşısında
the entire world.
özellikle birinci derecede
And against
küresel
this
enflasyonun
threat,
egemen olduğu ülkelerin atacağı
We are
adımlar büyük önem arz ediyor.
following
Aynı
the
şekilde
steps that
tabii
will be taken
biz
by the
de
countries
bu
suffering in the hands of
enflasyonun
inflation the
anda
most.
Bedelini
And we are
ödedik,
paying a
ödüyoruz.
hefty price for
Fakat
inflation, for the skyrocketing
ekibimiz bu
inflation.
konularda
However, our
yoğun bir
team in
gayretin
charge of
içerisinde,
economy in the cabinet
yoğun bir
is heavily
çalışmanın
invested in
içerisinde
efforts in order to
ve
eliminate the
başarılı bir süreci
ramifications of
yönetiyorlar.
skyrocketing inflation.
Ve bu
They are leading a
başarılı
very
süreçte ben inanıyorum ki
successful
yıl
process,
sonu
and I believe, I'm
bilemediniz
confident that by the end of this
yılın
year
başında
or the
bunu
beginning of the
başaracağız
next year, the
ve
latest,
buradan da
we
gerekli
will
olumlu neticeleri
accomplish our
alacağız
goals. We will
ve
start
bununla birlikte
reaping some
2024'de
positive
çok daha
results.
farklı bir
And the year
şekilde
2024
gireceğiz.
will be a year where things will look differently for Turkey.
This year marks the 100th anniversary of the Republic. You have a pledge to replace your current constitution. How is that going, and how does that factor in to your long-term vision for the country?
Tabii şu anda parlamentoda bizim
In front of the
gücümüz
parliament,
anayasayı değiştirmeye
we
muktedir değil.
do not have the majority
Biz
to amend the
Parlamentodaki
constitution.
tüm gruplara
We
bu çağrımızı
are
yaptık,
launching an
yapıyoruz.
appeal to all of the
Eğer
groups under the roof
parlamentoda
of the
grubu
parliament
olanlar
to amend the
bu
constitution.
çağrımıza
If the
onlar da
other
olumlu cevap verecek
parliamentarians
olurlarsa
respond positively to our
o zaman
appeals,
beraber
then we will
birlikte
all together
bu anayasayı
amend
değiştirmeyi
the
başarırız.
constitution. That's how
ve
we
böylece
can succeed.
Tüm parlamento
in amending the
bu
Constitution
anayasa
so that
değişikliğini
the entire
başarıyla
Parliament
gerçekleştirmiş
will
oluruz.
be very successful
Ve bu
in
çağrımı
realizing this
yapıyorum, yapmaya devam edeceğim.
goal. I'm constantly
ortak
launching an appeal
meselemiz.
because this is a
Bunu
joint
da birlikte
concern for us all,
çözmemiz lazım.
and this is something that we need to settle all together.
Well, Mr. President, thank you very, very much for joining us for this discussion. And again, honored you joined us for the Concordia Annual Summit.
Thank you.